Hi there, my name is Natalie Moore and I own More Creative Consulting. We're located in Stratford and today we're going to talk about consumer engagement. This is a hot topic right now because things are so different with COVID-19. So there's really a lot of data we need to unpack because when you have data, you have control and power over marketing your business. So I'm going to just hit share screen here and pull up my trusty PowerPoint. All right, here we are. So, consumer confidence and engagement. This is just a quick about More Creative, but you can always check us out later. Basically, we love helping small and medium-sized business grow their presence to the community and their consumers. So I'm going to jump right in. COVID-19 and consumer impact. Consumers have a very different confidence level than they did at the beginning of 2020. That means that their engagement with brands is a little volatile. Learning the statistics and understanding the numbers is the best way to get your marketing in check. So a lot of clients have been asking me, things are so different now. My consumers, my clients have different, different things going on in their life. They have different worries, different stress. How do I still maintain that relationship with them? And the truth is, it's so difficult and we've never seen this before, so there is no real answer. But what we can do is look at the numbers and try to formulate a plan. So we really kind of have to think creatively now, as things are definitely very different. So I just want to start out with, consider this. Marketing without data is like driving with your eyes closed. When I saw this, I was like, oh my goodness, this explains it so well. And this goes back to data for everything. Even if we think of before COVID-19, having data from your website, having data from your social media, from your engagement, all of that is like gold because it helps you figure out exactly how to market your business and to do it in a way that you know is going to make an impact, rather than closing your eyes and hoping that something amazing is going to work out of the blue. So with that being said, I went through and found some statistics. Now, the statistics aren't perfect because they're doing studies all the time. And really, studies from phase 3 and even phase 2 reopening, they're not really released yet. So we're not going to have those numbers for another couple months. However, we can look at statistics that would be from around May, and we can make our own assertions on how those effects might be lingering. So for instance, online shopping. 3 in 10 people are shopping for things online that they normally would have bought in store. This is according to a survey by Numerator. So 3 in 10, I would say that is probably higher, but that's still a hefty number. So that means that people are actually starting to order their groceries and they're buying them online and they're doing the stop by and grabbing them so they don't have to go in the store. They might be even heading to Amazon and ordering even small things like hairspray or lipstick or whatever they need, those small items that they would run to shoppers for. They're likely turning to online sources to order those and having Prime deliver them within 1 or 2 days. So there are ways for people to kind of combat that stress with the pandemic, which means they are turning to online shopping for things they normally wouldn't. Now, 52% are more likely to buy online. So this is a great number. This is in general. So say someone who didn't really shop online before. I will say myself, I'm a bit of a shopaholic, and I try to stay away from online shopping because I just know it's a scary thing. And the pandemic definitely changed that. Let's just say that I am an avid online shopper now. Yay, I finally broke down. But this is what everyone's kind of doing. So, but we also have to look at the age groups. So you'll see in this slide, younger people aged 18 to 29 are even more likely to turn to online retailers. And then also we have the 55 age group. So it's really funny when you look at those numbers, but it makes total sense. So as a business owner, you need to kind of know, okay, who is my consumer and what are they doing? So not only knowing that 52% number, we need to also know how that breaks down by age group and by the consumers that relate to you and your business. So here I'm going to just break this down. So both B2B and B2C companies need to make sure that they have an online strategy for selling items. If you do not sell items online currently, or even offer your service online, now is the time. So if you haven't adapted yet, if you've been kind of holding out or just taking a very long vacation, I mean, amazing, good for you. Now is really the time when you need to kick it into overdrive and make sure that you are online. And that could be selling items online or having a really great social media strategy to sell online. And your services, you really need to make sure that you have a way to share sensitive information and host meetings. And your follow-up is going to be key. So whether you are business to business or business to consumer, we will bring this up a couple times, but your follow-up means so much because we don't have the time and the space and the ability to build an in-person connection like we used to. And even if we do, we're now guarded with a mask, or people are in a rush, or people are just, their mind is wandering. So being online is amazing, but we need to make sure we have some sort of follow-up strategy. So I do have some tips here, as you can see. So basically taking your time to develop your new model. So this isn't something that you want to rush. You want to think through every level rather than rushing into it and it looks thrown together, or it looks like it was lackluster, because your consumer will notice that. You need to also make sure that you can keep up with supply and demand. And do you have a solid delivery solution? So those are all things you need to think of as well, especially because if you were just a retail store, you maybe didn't think through that before. But now, delivery needs to be easy, it needs to be simple, it needs to even be contactless. So there's all these things that we need to consider. And then I would say look in on this new model weekly, if not daily, and adjust as needed. So things are changing rapidly. Every day is a new statistic, is a new finding, is new research, new numbers are coming out each day. One day we may have great, Ontario did well, we don't have a lot of cases, but tomorrow it could be jumped up again. So that just goes to show that right now in this COVID world, things are changing so quick. So your online platform needs to change quick. And then also we talked plan a follow-up. So since we're losing that one-on-one time with our consumers, this is great opportunity for you to have an email campaign or a special promo. Or if you're a B2B or just a professional service, maybe it's an extra phone call. Creating that extra step so that way you can build that relationship a little bit further. Here's another one. So buying local. 80% of Canadians are continuing to buy local and show preference to made in Canada products. And this has increased from 77% over the past 3 weeks. So once again, this data is for the end of April and May. But I still think that this is valid now because, we want to really support Canadian made, especially when we look to our neighbors and what's happening there. And I think we also really want to support local because we feel for our local entrepreneurs and business owners that are struggling right now, that are going through such a huge change. So supporting those people, it gives us that sense of fulfillment. So that's something to keep in mind. So what does this mean then for you as a business? I believe that it means that you need to showcase the items that you have that are Canadian made. And if you're a service, you could also showcase how you're helping the community, whether it's now or how you've helped in the past or your plans for the future. You could even make announcements about switching providers to something that is more local. And basically this messaging allows you to stay relevant and important at a time when consumers are inundated. So a great example is I recently switched more creative to have all of our files on something called Sync. It's sync.com. Now that's from Dropbox. Sync is a Canadian company and they have actually better encryption processes in place. So that kind of ticks the box that we talked about before about protecting content and information. but also it was a small switch I could make that is supporting a Canadian company. So when clients like, hey, like I'm now using Sync and this is a Canadian product, they do smile. And I do notice that their reaction is happy. It's a positive one. So anytime we can kind of showcase what we're doing to prop up our local economy, whether it be the Stratford economy, Mitchell, St. Mary's, whether it be Ontario or Canada, we will have a positive feedback from that. So the other idea I had, so just a tip and a trick basically, on your website, you could change out your hero banner, which is basically that big photo that's at the top of your website, and you could change it to be a highlight on either a product or a service or something that you're doing that is local. And that allows you to make that first connection as soon as your consumer hops on your website. They're gonna notice, oh, hey, like they're supporting local. The other idea is to use shop local hashtag in your post for social media. I am not gonna jump into this a lot, but some numbers were telling me that 15% of people are spending more time on social media now since the pandemic. I believe that that could be a whole session by itself. And I think that number could even be higher, lower. I didn't explore because I could explore all day, every day. But keep in mind, people are on social a little more now than they were. The other thing is offer streamlined messaging to all of your employees so that your messaging is on point and effective. So if you have a local strategy in place, make sure that your employees know that because really they are the people that are an extension to your consumers. So they need to also know that key messaging. And the other couple of notes, make genuine local connections. So really in everything we talk about today, remember to just be genuine. That's kind of a key message in and of itself. We need to be genuine because consumers can pick up on it. They know when you're lying, they know when you're being fake, and they know when you're genuine. So, and then above all, communicate. We have to communicate, and that's another key message for any of these statistics we're talking about. When you have a plan in place, you really do need to communicate. And you need to make that memorable and brief and straight to the point because consumers' heads are so full right now. They're so full with everything from money stress, from job stress, from worrying about their loved ones, from worrying about getting sick, from worrying about the economy. We have all of these things going on in the background. So we need to remain positive as entrepreneurs and kind of reflect that to our consumers. But we also need to communicate in a very quick and brief way that will stick for our customers. So now we're going to talk about Canadian travel. And I found this really interesting specifically because Stratford, St. Mary's, we are destination town cities. Even when we add in Shakespeare. Like this area is great for a day trip, for folks to come here and just explore and have fun and forget about the pandemic. Definitely having masks in place makes a lot of us feel a little more comfortable with having local tourists come here. So that's something great. So that's something we really want to leverage. Some interesting numbers here was, so 17% of Canadians are interested in small town travel destinations. So that would include us. And 19% are left looking at booking a domestic trip about a year from now. And with that, this statistic, that would be May 2020. And 15% are interested in major city travel destinations. So there's a couple things to keep in mind here. If it's someone, you know, someone from Toronto may love to come to Stratford to kind of get a break. Someone eventually who lives in BC may want to come to Ontario and go to Toronto, Ottawa, and even make small stops like our beautiful city. So that's important to keep in mind. And this is positive because while we are missing our US tourists, which really does hurt our economy, especially in Stratford. I mean, Canada-wide it hurts, but for us, I'm sure most of us can experience some of the effect of that. So knowing that people are willing to travel to smaller towns is something positive that we can look at. So we really need to think, how can we set ourselves apart from other businesses and make it worth it for Canadians to explore your store or your service. So if more people are willing to travel to areas like ours, and Canadians specifically, what can we do that makes our product or service stand out? And that might be, what's your safety protocol? You know, do locals feel safe going in knowing that people are coming from out of town? And if you have a solid policy in place, they probably do. Also, like, what gives off that charm of Stratford? You know, what are you doing that makes people think of you when they think of Stratford? And lastly, you want to think of, why would they refer their friends to visit Stratford in general or St. Mary's? And why would they visit your establishment? So these are all things we want to keep in our mind. We know that this travel is happening. So how can we optimize it? So I have show your unique value. So, you know, you want to review your guidelines. You want to focus on being memorable. Even offer an incentive or, you know, something that is unique. You want to capture their interest and turn it into future online business. Now, this is key, because if they're travelers from outside of our area, we can capture them in store if they're here for a day, but we want to turn them into future customers, whether that be staying relevant in their mind if they come back in 6 months, or more importantly, getting that online connection with them. So that might be a handout that you give out in store. It might be send them a promo code that says, I love Stratford. And you could offer a small discount. So like, you know, thank you for shopping with us today. We hope you love your product. I also want to give you this postcard with a promo code to check out our online site, and you'll save 20% on your next purchase. So something like that, you're giving away a little bit, but you're also building that connection that could last online. And looking at the other statistics, that is so important. Now, with all of the above, we need to show our love to the locals too. So I always say it's about balance. So getting tourists to come to Stratford is important, but we also need to remember that the safety of our locals and that feeling that locals have when they have Stratford to play around in, that stays. So really it is all about balance. So when you do come up with a strategy, I would say always be thinking about your neighbor. So that way we don't lose anyone there. Now, next, we're going to talk about communication. So 94% reported receiving emails from companies about their efforts to deal with the impact of COVID-19. This is not surprising. I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, my inbox was full. And 85% expect companies to increase their cleaning, and 75% want companies to ensure hand sanitizer is available. So this just goes to show that if you haven't communicated on what you're doing for COVID-19 in your store or in your office, you need to do that. This is very important. It is something that you need to keep doing because things keep changing. So unpacking the statistic here. So I told you, if you haven't done this, you need to do it right away. You should be posting this in your store or in your office. You should be posting it on your social media. You should send an email, communicate with your employees and your vendors who are coming in and out. You should be updating this information as you evolve as a company. So maybe you find new ways that you can make your store safer or your office safer. It always needs to be back of mind. And then also, as we get new guidelines from the government, we need to keep changing what we're doing to protect our consumers and our employees. So if you need to send kind of that update email every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, you might feel like, oh, maybe I'm annoying my customers. But no, they expect to receive this communication. So just keep it simple, keep it clear, and make sure it's memorable for them. Back to, if you post a flyer in your store with information, try not to do the plain white piece of paper typed out on Microsoft Word. Basically, this note, this letter is going to be seen by everyone. People are looking for your COVID-19 policy. And they're gonna look for it likely on your storefront or when they first enter your office, on your website, they're gonna be looking for it. So why not have it be branded to match your company? If you take the time to create your policy with your logo, it has the proper fonts, it has the proper colors, maybe even an image, and if someone were to look at that and say that definitely belongs to more creative, it is going to show that you've taken care. So it's a small way that we can subliminally communicate with consumers that we've taken time and that we have attention to detail. And this is something very small that has a huge impact because consumers will now know that you're serious. And then also going back to your email. So keep your subject line simple. And the reason I say this is because you're helping your consumer. So likely, and I do this myself, I don't know about you, but before I go into a store or a restaurant, I always search my inbox or their social media to see what they've updated. So if you have a subject line, for instance, more creative COVID policy July 2020, people can search that easily. And then they'll pick up on it and be like, okay, you know, it's August, so now I can search more creative COVID policy August. And then I know if there's something that's been updated, I can easily find it. So making sure that that communication is easy to find and so completely straightforward, like I mean painfully straightforward, your consumers are gonna appreciate it. So a big example right now was when the restaurants were able to reopen inside. People were a little confused about the mask policy. Do they wear it inside until they get to their table and then they can take it off? Do they wear it until they order their drink? Do they wear it until they actually get their drink? You know, do they wear it to the washroom? When do they need to wear their mask? So a lot of restaurants I noticed were saying, you know, just, you know, a friendly reminder, please wear your mask inside until you get to your table. But I'm left with all these questions. And some restaurants have a different policy behind this. Some restaurants are being a little more strict with it, which I think, hey, great, you're protecting your employees and the rest of us. But being straightforward and keeping it clear and simple to understand makes me as the consumer feel comfortable and knowing that I'm not going to be breaking sort of rule. This is a big one. So consumer stress. 42% of Canadians are stressed and overwhelmed. Now that's as of May 2020. That went up 25% from March 2020. And I imagine it's still going up now, even though things are kind of feeling a little bit normal. But I would say that consumers overall are stressed, and they're stressed about a lot of things. And I don't think that this is going to change anytime soon. So it's our job as a business owner to think about what could be stressing out our consumers. And certain stressors will mean different things for different businesses. So it goes back to knowing your consumer. So what are they stressed about? And what can you do to mitigate that stress? Because then you're building on your relationship with your consumer. If you can recognize that, hey, you know, maybe our clients are mostly 50 plus. As we know, they had a hard time with COVID-19. So, and they're worried. They're a little more worried about going out. So what can we do to reduce that stress? You know, if you are helping a lot of children, we know that children often, we don't know if they have it or not, but they can still pass it around. So their parents are stressed. So what can we do to mitigate that stress? So it could be valuable to spend time doing your own survey, talking with your employees, and exploring what you think those stress points are. And I say do your own survey. You know, that might be asking a few friends, some family members, talking to your employees, building that story, what you think your consumers are stressed about and how those stressors affect you and your business. This allows you to have strategic marketing and an organizational plan in place. Now, we know, okay, so let's say we know what consumers are stressed about. I'm going to tell you right now, they're stressed about money because they don't know if their business is going to be afloat in a few months. They're worried about a second wave. We keep hearing about a second wave, so they're scared. Now it's coming close to back to school time, so parents are terrified. You know, we don't know how that's going to look. We don't know how things are going to work out with that. So think of back to January. No consumer had this type of stress. This is so completely new. So basically, I would say, think of how your service or your product can show its value to reduce that money stress. So if you can just say, hey, I know you could buy any new backpack for your child, but if you buy this backpack, it's going to last, you know, for the whole school year. The zipper isn't going to break. You know, the money, like a portion of it goes towards this charity. If you show that value, then you reduce the stress because you've proven that it's okay to spend this money because it's not a waste. Showing that you're safe, so that your policy for guests, your policy for employees, you have all of those plans in place, you're following the guidelines, that can help reduce the stress that people have towards the pandemic. Constant and effective communication reduces questions that consumers have and stops them from filling in the blanks. So in other webinars and seminars, I've always said, never, ever, ever allow your consumers to fill in the blanks. And that's true if you are a business to business or business to consumer. If you allow them to fill in blanks, you have lost control of your message, which is terrifying. So what we want to do, like I said before, effective communication that covers everything, straight to the point. And I also want you to consider offering numerous ways to shop, dine, work with you will reduce the stress they have because options give your consumer a feeling of control. So if they know that they could, you know, still do curbside pickup, they could go into the store if they want to, they could have it delivered to their home. You have given them options so they feel in control. So their stress is it's at bay. If you don't give them many options, that stress is going to come back up. So that's something I really want you to consider as well. Now, those are kind of the big statistics. There are so many that I could go over, but I really wanted you to understand communication, the stress that your consumers are feeling, their online shopping behaviors. Those are three big things, and unpacking those and understanding how to formulate a strategy. But we also need to consider the new consumer values. So just because, you know, yeah, we're in phase 3, COVID-19, our numbers are coming down. We feel a little bit of hope because we keep hearing about a vaccine. I just read something about, it was with Theresa Tam, and she was saying, you know, even if we get a vaccine, all of these social distancing measures and masks and all of the things we've done could remain in place for a few years. Like, a vaccine isn't going to change things overnight. It's not going to be that magic cure-all right away, which first of all made me want to cry, but second of all made me think, okay, that means we have new behaviors with consumers that we need to be aware of and that we need to make sure that we are taking care of. So on an entrepreneurial level, yeah, we can be upset about it. Like, we don't know how long this new normal is going to last. We don't know anything really. So all we can do is control right now with the information we have. So new behaviors. Basically, Deloitte did a study, and their studies are fantastic. I would highly recommend looking them up. It's listed on the slideshow here at the bottom, right underneath this blurb. And I would say it's going to be very valuable for you to read through their study on consumers, because they really do have a lot of great information. So they're saying that consumers may retain habits and behaviors they adopted during the pandemic. So let's say even if, you know, next year in a perfect world, we don't have to wear masks, we don't have to social distance, we have a vaccine, everyone magically was able to get it overnight. I'm just thinking positively, but let's say that that happens. There are some habits that I think will stay. because that's exactly what it is. You build a habit and usually it can stick around. So that means online shopping and clicking and collecting is probably here to stay. And if a company discovered your brand during the hard times back in April and May, they're likely going to stick with that relationship. So that's another positive thing too. And it also shows that older Canadians are growing more comfortable with digital channels. So that has been something that we always combat, trying to get that older demographic to come online, to go on social media. And the pandemic really kind of pushed them towards it. So that is something that could stay. So 40% of Ontario consumers plan to keep their online shopping habits even after the pandemic is over. So this was a Mindshare survey. So I think that's very important to keep in mind. Basically, so we already discussed online shopping, but this just goes to prove that that switch that you make to be very accessible online, it's here to stay. So that plan needs to be solid, it needs to be well thought out, it needs to be implemented with care, and it is a long-term change. So growing that platform that you've put in place will allow you to grow with your consumers and stay on trend. So another thing I want you to consider then is lead generation. So, how can you drive more people to your website? How can you use Google Analytics? How can you use Google AdWords? What can you do to increase your viewership online? And using Google Analytics is going to be a great way for you to understand how people are interacting. If you're a service and people are going to your contact page, it means they're interested. They're only going there if they plan on contacting you, whether they did or did not. So that goes to prove, okay, I had a lot of people visit the contact page, but I only had, 10 of the 60 people actually send me an email. So you need to be thinking through, what can I do to convert more of those people that visited to actually send me that email? And that might be having a simpler contact form with less questions. That might be having more reviews to prove your value. So going back, we already talked about that, proving your value. So those numbers help you figure out what to do with your online strategy to make sure you're getting the most from that. And the other thing is capturing information. A subscriber list is, I always call it gold. When you can get that email, you now have a direct connection with your consumer. So find a way to capture their email, whether if you're a service giving away, for instance, something like this slideshow. If they leave their email, we'll send you a copy of this slideshow to help you with your strategies. They are getting something out of it. There's value in leaving their email, and you're getting something out of it because now you have that one-on-one communication, and you could eventually convert them to a customer. Lastly, we'll talk about your SEO strategies. So you got to keep working on it. You may have spent a lot of time on this at the beginning of the pandemic, knowing that, okay, I need to ramp up online, I need to work on my SEO, I need to be relevant. But that habit that you built needs to remain because, like we said, people are still going to be shopping online. So it is a new world. Things have changed permanently. So we need to also change permanently. Here I have it again, keeping it simple. And then I have here, especially since older demographics are here now. So we've always wanted to convert that older demographic in Canada to be with us online. And we got it. It's here, it's happening. So now we need to think, how can we keep it simple? How can we make sure our website is simple to navigate, simple to read, easy click-throughs? How can we keep this so simple so that we keep everyone engaged? Okay, here's another one. So new values. 3 in 5 Canadians rate health and safety equally important as good customer service. Canadians are looking for companies to step up when it comes to ensuring health and safety measures are in place. So I find this interesting and it makes total sense. And I would say this number is probably even higher. Before, we always talked about, I worked in restaurants for years, and I always said, you could have the best steak that is cooked to perfection, but if you have a horrible server who is not attentive, doesn't care, is even a little rude, that steak doesn't taste as good. So that was kind of always the importance of customer service. And that is the way I always think about it. Being positive and allowing your customers to feel your positive energy is going to make your product better. Your product is only as good as your people. So now we have this new thing in play. We know about customer service and the importance, but now health is just as important. So what do we need to do to make sure that we marry both of those things? And then also generations. So a new study reveals generational responses to the crisis, with baby boomers being the most likely to stop shopping at a location. So that's 71% of them. But 58% of millennials and 50% of Generation Z are less likely to change their behavior. So keep that in mind as well. So what does this mean? We know we have new values. People are putting health and safety on the exact same level as customer service. That means we need to be forward thinking. Just like you would hold a discussion with your employees around customer service tactics, there should be discussions around health and safety measures as well. This needs to be, I've been places where you start every day with kind of a 5-minute round table, and you talk about ways to increase your customer service. Now it's going to be ways to increase your customer service and your safety measures. What did you do yesterday that you could improve on today to keep a customer safer? So really, what can you do to increase the safety of your staff and customers? How can you mix great customer service with health and safety? Once you have a plan, we're back to this communication. You need to communicate it with your customers. So I do have some tips and tricks. If you've done everything you can to implement safety measures, keep the conversation going. Just because you have this amazing policy, it's working well, customers are happy, employees are happy, it doesn't mean you let that health and safety conversation go to the wayside. It still needs to be prevalent. So you could share a health and safety tip on your social media once a week. You could offer private shopping sessions outside of regular hours. And that would go back to that other statistic we talked about where, the baby boomers don't feel comfortable shopping in store yet. So that's a way for you to maybe make a change that would help them. You could share articles and speak about things you've learned. You could also, doing all of the above, so keeping that conversation going, makes you a trusted individual around the topic. Then we're going to talk about, so showing enthusiasm and positivity is an easy way to mix service and care. So I say consumers are always watching, and they do have a very long memory. There's a story in the news right now that you may or may not have heard about, and it's about a Disney store in London. So a family with, I think they had 4 young children, but they went in, and their one daughter has, I believe it's autism, where she doesn't like a mask touching her face. So she does have a disability that, wearing that mask is really difficult. So she had it on. So I say, good for her, keep up the great work, but it wasn't covering her nose. And they were told many times by employees, she needs to put it over her nose, put it over her nose. They tried. The mom even talked to the store manager and told her what was going on before they even entered the store. So eventually they were told to leave. They were told they had 5 minutes, finish up, you have to leave. And this has hit the news. And it's hit the news because customer service was missing. The employees didn't communicate with each other about what was going on with this person. So they were approached by however many different people. And they also weren't keeping in mind the policy that was set out by London, by their health unit. So which said that anyone with a disability who is unable to wear a mask is exempt. So the fact that this family was trying and this little girl was trying, I mean, I say great for her. it still didn't work out. And now there's a very negative view of the customer service at that store. So this just goes to prove that even Disney can have mishaps. So we really do have to be aware of tying customer service with health and safety. So if you have those precautions in place, communicate with your staff. You know, what's going to happen if XYZ happens in the store, and how are you going to deal with it? And if it gets out, and if it's even misconstrued, what are you going to do to change that conversation and take control of the conversation? So having a plan in place based on that, whether it's going to happen to you or not, it's good to have in your back pocket because you really never know. So I wanted to share that story because it goes to prove the value of customer service mixed with safety. And it is a very unique scenario that all businesses are having to think of. So I'm just going to take a minute break here and take a sip of water. Now I want to talk about a few ideas by industry. And really, you might be thinking, okay, why should I listen to this next part? There are things that we can pull from different industries to help you in your industry. So just because we have some ideas for different, you know, for a realtor versus, you know, maybe a contractor, there are things you can still pull out from that. So I do have for all industry, spend time on your Google My Business listing. Add more photos, update your hours, get more reviews. You also want to take advantage of current relationships and spend time converting those into more sales. If it's harder to get new consumers right now, which we know it is, why not optimize the ones you already have? Look at your website's SEO and spend time updating so you are prepared for that permanent change we talked about. Implement an email marketing strategy that is long-term. Communicate with your audience in a clear and concise manner. And we just talked about this, be mindful of your messaging. Consumers have a long memory. So think about all of the things that could happen and make sure you have that messaging in place before it does happen. So for real estate, some of these things are you know, everyone kind of knows. So market with a lot of photos and have a lot of straightforward details so people don't need to spend as much time in the home. Take advantage of virtual tours. Offer digital meetings where you can. Now, buyer traffic is low. This is probably changing. Like, this is changing every day. But if buyer traffic is lower, you need to nurture that relationship once you get it. So what does that mean? You might do a follow-up after a virtual meeting so that they feel just as important. And you also want to basically make sure you build on that connection. Nurture that connection that you've made, because consumers could be few and far between. And even if, let's say, you know, it's a summer market and things are great, I guarantee the winter market is going to be different from last year's winter market. So it's still important to make sure that you're building on those relationships. And I would say, share your expertise and watch the industry. So things are changing fast. So if you're ahead of the curve, you are really being considered a thought leader in your industry. And that is going to help you build that relationship with those consumers that could be few and far between. So retail, in-store data, that is going to be key. So you basically want to have that in-store data and transfer consumers online. Because we talked about online traffic is going to remain. It's going to stay higher. It's going to be the preferred way to shop. Keeping that in mind, using product recommendations to show your value will combat stress. So whether that's a display in store where this is the top recommended product this week, whether that's that image we talked about on your website, that cover image hero banner, that might be, you know, product of the week. Whether it's a social media post, showing the value will help with that stress when it comes to spending. Another thing is utilize abandoned cart email campaigns. So these are amazing because if someone fills their cart, you can pay for a service where you can send an email that says, hey, you forgot the items in your cart. And some people think they're annoying. Other people have great success with it. So just really think through how you would want to utilize that. Also, consider new hobbies that could have come from the pandemic and highlight your related offerings. This one is true for any industry, but especially with retail. Are people spending more time outdoors? If so, maybe you're going to sell a certain type of bug repellent. Maybe you're going to start selling protein bars beside something else. Whatever those items are that you can put together that make sense for the new hobbies and the new actions of your consumers is going to help you sell more product. The last thing, and I read this somewhere and I found this really interesting, open up your store layout so consumers feel less confined. I absolutely love this point. It makes total sense. So if we can open up the storefront and make it feel very open and refreshing, that reduces that stress. It helps consumers feel like, okay, I'm going in this tight store, there's a lot of people, I feel like there's stuff everywhere, I'm gonna catch COVID, no matter what. If we can reduce that and just make that feeling of calm and openness, that might even be down to how maybe you have your hand sanitizer outside and the door propped open and have fresh air. Maybe you have a certain scent, maybe there's an essential oil that helps with stress. I know lavender is a good one. So whatever you can do to create that atmosphere where consumers feel less confined is going to help you. And then share it on social media. Get that message out, right? Back to the communication point. If that's the step you're taking, communicate. So hospitality. This is really for if you own an inn, if you own a hotel, if you own a restaurant, coffee shop, any of those kind of hospitality places. So as we know, you have less consumers. I love eating out. I love food. So I've been to some patios already, and I've been dining indoors when it's way too hot. And I've noticed that there are less people. And that could be because we've lost our US tourists. It could be because people are still a little stressed to go out. But the topic is there. We have less consumers. So how can we suggestively sell online? And how can we optimize those people we do have? So I would say be personalized in your approach. So when you're a little more personable, whether you own a hotel, a cafe, or a restaurant, you're really building on that relationship and hopefully turning them into future customers. So that might be sharing a post that someone had, enjoyed a great dinner on the patio at Bentley's. Bentley's is a great one. They're always kind of reposting when people share something like that. Maybe you see someone commented on a salad from Circle. Everyone loves Circle salad. So maybe someone has that in the square with those gorgeous tables that are set up. As that company, and they're really good at this, communicating with, hey, I'm so glad you enjoyed your salad. You're creating that personalized connection. Now we're going to talk about spending time connecting with customers and the community. So the more you can be part of your community, the more you can potentially turn those people into customers. And if you don't already, have a solid delivery option that is easy and accessible for all ages. So if you do have an ordering system online, you might want to make sure people can call as well. Or, if you have an application where people can go and order food online, make sure it works, make sure that it's not going to be down, or, things aren't going to go through. Or I even experienced with one delivery item, I wanted to order online and I couldn't leave a message. So I had to call. So thinking through, like, as a millennial, I'd rather order online, but I needed to call because I needed to leave a message. So thinking through, okay, how can we make this as seamless and easy as possible? Use the power of influencers and reviews. So you're really thinking of it as the herd mentality. If people see others being safe and having fun, they're more likely to partake. So, if you're a hotel, you might share, this is the experience that one customer had. And, if they get them to share it on Google My Business or on Facebook or wherever that is, so that people now are seeing that others are safe. So it creates that herd mentality. So for the trade, but this could cover, electricians, this could cover construction, this could cover concrete, landscapers, any of those people doing those types of things. So I would say market the projects which are crucial for your consumers. That way you reduce that money stress. So what are those things you do that they will not pass on because there's value in it? And those are the services you want to highlight. So, you know, for instance, as an electrician, you know, maybe you don't want to push having, you know, your hot tub rewired outside, or you're getting a new hot tub, we suggest doing this. Yeah, that's great. And you definitely need an electrician to help you with that. But more importantly, it's, you know, doing your yearly maintenance, right? Those things that are going to reduce fire. If someone bought a house and had knob and tube, those are the things you want to push because it's more important. Those fluffy items that are kind of the nice to haves, you don't want to push them right now because people are having money stress. That to say you couldn't make a post about it, but your number one priority is going to be those services that are going to make a big impact and keep your consumers safe. So also share your policy for entering the home. So before your appointment, you might want to send them a quick email like, hey, just a reminder, this is what we're doing. You know, having that extra, even if it's posted on your site, having that extra connection is going to make them feel special. And I'm going to say, make use of digital tools if you can for a specific trade. So if someone wants to meet with you because they want their driveway redone, maybe you will use Zoom. Maybe you're okay to meet outside because, hey, you're outside, you're at a distance, that's great. But some people still might want to say, let's just have a Zoom chat. So having those options, which we talked about before, giving your consumers options makes them feel in control, which reduces stress. And also consider new opportunities that will come in the coming years that you're best and or least equipped to capitalize on, and then start thinking about it and get ahead of the curve. So in a year from now, what are those things that consumers are going to want, and how can you start marketing it now so that you are thinking ahead? I believe this is the last one. So professional services. So this could be B2B or B2C. You know, maybe you're an accountant, maybe you're a marketing company like myself. You know, maybe you offer some sort of consulting. These are some great tips for you. So in my findings, they say that helping others selflessly by, say, making modifications in your packages has a really big impact for your client. So whether that be offering payment plans or offering a different way for people to pay, or making your service accessible and easy, helps consumers feel less stressed. We keep going back to that because it is very important. And also share some of your knowledge online for free so that you remain top of mind, even if businesses or people can't afford you at the moment or just don't have the headspace to even connect with you at the moment. So it's not always about money, it's about what's going on in their mind. We are inundated, we are stressed, we have a lot going on. So it might just be that they're not in the headspace, but you really do want to remain top of mind for when they are in the headspace again. B2B companies. Now, you rely heavily on relationship building for client intake. So my biggest thing that I talked about with my mentors was, you know, I can't do a Facebook ad for More Creative the way someone else could for their product or service, because marketing is something that is it's personal, and it's for something that is like your baby, right? Like, you have nurtured this business, you've grown this business, and you want to put your best foot forward. So me connecting with a potential client on a Facebook ad is not going to work. They're not going to get that same feeling as when they meet me at an event. And they get that sense of comfort. And they might decide that, you know, our personalities jive and that they feel that level of comfort. So for someone like me, I've been impacted because I can't go to networking events, and I can't have a seminar like this in class where I can see all of your beautiful faces and we can chat and have a question and answer period. So it's different, and I need to find a way to focus on building relationships in a different way. So I'm saying to clients who have a similar scenario, You know, I'm with you. It's difficult, but we do need to find a way to build a relationship differently. And that isn't always going to be turned into a Facebook ad. They're totally valuable for most businesses, but sometimes, you know, spending time doing something else might be more valuable for you. So recognizing, for all business, recognizing your problem and coming up with a solution is going to be the way that you stay ahead of the curve right now, and even for the next couple of years as we recover. So I do have a couple quotes here, as you can see them. I like to end on a positive note, so this is a little inspirational moment, but stopping advertising to save money is like stopping your watch to save time. The next evolution of content marketing is not more content, it's better distribution. And a brand is no longer what we tell consumers it is what consumers tell each other it is. So I really want you to think of those three things. And when you're coming up with your marketing strategy, maybe you're thinking about these three quotes and just, you know, embrace it and think positively about what's going on, because it really is an interesting time that we can capitalize on. So I'm going to stop my share right now. So I really hope that you enjoyed this chat that we had. As usual, I love talking, so I probably rambled, but I'm really hoping that you picked up a couple pointers. And above all, I know that this is tough right now. This is tough for all businesses, and I feel for everyone, but we're gonna get through it. And if we remain positive, and if we come up with a strategy and build a plan, honestly, we will not only survive, but we'll come out on top. So thank you so much. If you want to check out my company, we love posting to Instagram, so it's at More Creative Consulting, and our website is morecreativeconsulting.com. So thank you so much, and enjoy your weekend.